Off and running Monday afternoon. The Krueger Show meets the Cohn Zone. Of course, Krueger Show brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. What's up, Grant? How are you, man? How's your weekend?
It was great. How you doing, Larry? Good to see you.
Yeah, seriously. It's hot, man. I'm out here in the creek today, and I got to pick my spots. This is not going to be one of my marathon 3-hour streams. I promise you that, because this, not only are we sponsored by Pig and a Pickle, but I'm also brought to you by Under Armour and Men in Speed Stick. So they have sent me extra Speed Stick so I don't sweat too much.
That's useful. That's quite useful.
Always useful,
especially out in the creek.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's 95 degrees.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the Sunset, so I always enjoyed the fog. But my wife got me right after we got married on like a really foggy, cold July, like late July day, and we had just gone like somewhere in Marin or someplace to like the weekend for beautiful barbecue, and we were swimming and the weather. Then it was like Tuesday, and it was freezing, and she's like, "Do you think we should move out of the city?" I'm like, yeah, we need to move out of the city.
She got you when you were weak at your most vulnerable time.
My most vulnerable moment.
It's okay. I like the creek.
Yeah. No, it's nice. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk, the story of the day. And it's funny. I saw one of your streams. You're like, we're not going to say his name.
Got to say his name today.
Yeah. Brandon Aiyuk, BA, number 11, however you want to describe him. He's meeting today with the 49ers. Adam Schefter reported it. Ryan Clark reported it on NFL Live. Aiyuk actually requested the meeting. And from what the reports are, he's taking negotiations somewhat personally. And the Niners, what I got to think are lowball offers, have maybe affected his psyche a little bit. As I said, he requested the meeting. The other detail that we got is his choice is to play for the 49ers, but he is comfortable playing elsewhere if they are willing to trade him. So that's all we got. What's your takeaway from the news of the day that Aiyuk called this meeting?
Could you explain how Jaden Daniels factors into this news? I'm a little confused here. Ryan Clark brought him up.
Yeah, so I'm going to share the screen so people can check this out. I'm going to play this off the X. This was Clark sharing this. Okay, let's there we go. Here we go. Hold on.
He did not walk into the room.
Here, we'll get this back to the beginning. Here's Ryan Clark on ESPN NFL Live, I believe.
And I will tell you this. When he sat with us, he did not walk into the room alone. First, it was Brandon Aiyuk. Second, it was Jaden Daniels. I'm not a tea leaf reader, but the way that sounds is that Brandon Aiyuk wouldn't mind playing in Washington. And I will.
Okay.
Well, I mean, or they're next door neighbors. Where does he live? Does he live in Rockland? I know he spent time in Rockland. Do we know where Aiyuk lives?
I'm not sure. I think he's in Reno. But all I know is that he and Jaden Daniels are very close. They play together in college. They're very good friends. Seems to be closer with Daniels than Brock Purdy, and he's close with Purdy. Also, the general manager in Washington is Adam Peters. And it seems like it's possible he could be messing with the Niners. You know, like, hey, you want to extend Brandon Aiyuk? Well, I'm going to make it harder for you because we want him to. And our quarterback's better friends with him than your quarterback is. And we have more money to pay than you do. And also, like, isn't it tampering for Adam Peters to call up Aiyuk's agent and start throwing around numbers? What they could do, though, is go through Daniels, right?
Right.
Like, hey, tell Brandon 31.
We'll go to 32 right now. He's worth
you didn't hear it from me, right? Like it seems like they could be sort of tampering without tampering, and that Washington's a really interesting team to look at in this whole thing because Adam Peters knows him, Jaden Daniels knows him. They seem to want him. Interesting.
Well, this goes back to, wasn't it like 4 or 5 days before the draft where they were pictured together on was it the IG saying, hey, 4 days from now, 5 days from now, fireworks, expect fireworks. And then the draft came and went. We didn't really get any fireworks. I don't know.
I mean, think about it, right? Like Adam Peters is the good cop right now. The Niners are playing bad cop. You're not that good. You're overrated. You're not worth as much as you think. And Adam Peters can just be whispering through Jaden Daniels, man, they're screwing you over, man. come play with us. We love you. You're phenomenal. I'd want to play for that team too, assuming that's what's going on.
And, to add more to that, it's very easy to look at the Commanders as a team that has lots of pieces that would be intriguing to the 49ers. I mean, there's a lot of talk that Jonathan Allen could be traded for because they already paid Deron Payne. They added Dorrance Armstrong. They added Cleveland Farrell. And if Jonathan Allen was available, if I'm the 49ers, I'm looking at how important they value the D-line. How would you not want Jonathan Allen? I mean, they just drafted Johnny Newton, so they could theoretically slide Newton right into Jonathan Allen's spot and not miss a beat. The Commanders also have Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Luke McCaffrey, Christian's brother. They have some pieces there. They're supposedly disenchanted with Emmanuel Forbes, who was their first-round draft pick corner from the previous regime. He's interesting, very exciting corner. So, they do have pieces to the puzzle that could easily, help the 49ers feel very comfortable with moving Aiyuk. I guess the question is, do you feel comfortable moving Aiyuk? Obviously the Niners, and they're inside their Super Bowl window. Why would they want to move Aiyuk? He's their best receiver. But if he's going to hold out all year, maybe it's better for them to move Aiyuk.
Well, there's two things going on here. Washington, Adam Peters could whisper through Jaden Daniels, tell Brandon we'll pay him whatever he wants. Yes, he's worth 31, 32, 33. It's another thing for Adam to then turn around and give John Lynch what he wants in the trade. Because does John Lynch want to seem like he's losing a trade to his former underling who left? No. That's not going to happen. So maybe they'll pay Brandon, but will they give the Niners a first-round pick? And if the answer is no, then Brandon's going to have to wait. And that might be
does a first-round pick, is that what you'd want at this point? To me, if you're the 49ers, if you trade Brandon Aiyuk for any collection of 2025 draft capital, that's a loss.
It doesn't help. So what I would want, I'd want Terry McLaurin.
June 24th.
I'd want Terry McLaurin. To me, that's a similar player, a couple years older, a little cheaper, more than the Niners price. If they're offering $26 million a year, McLaurin's cheaper than that. And he's just as good as Aiyuk, just a little bit older. That's what I would do.
He's not quite, Aiyuk's 26. I think McLaurin's 28 or 29.
29, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 years.
McLaurin's had great production in his career. I might, but are you saying straight up? Are you saying Aiyuk straight up?
You could balance it out with some picks, Washington. Yeah. Throws in
what if their dream is to pair McLaurin and Aiyuk together? Would you take McCaffrey's brother? Would you take Dotson? Would you take that defensive lineman, Jonathan Allen?
Maybe Jonathan Allen. That's interesting.
How confident are you in the Niner defensive front? I thought their defensive line last year was an embarrassment at the end of the year.
I don't think much of Hargrave right now. And when they traded for Malik Collins, my first reaction was, who's Malik Collins?
Right. Now he looks good in these Coach Yak Twitter videos, but let's see it when the lights are shining bright.
Coach Yak.
He
blocked me.
Coach Yak putting Collins running around cones, but something tells me it's a little different when you put the pads on.
Larry, was he doing anything in OTAs or minicamp?
I didn't see him.
No.
Didn't see
him.
He
missed the first 3 weeks because his daughter was graduating, and then when he got there, they felt he wasn't ready to practice, so we watched. So he may be great, but we haven't seen him do a damn thing yet.
Yeah. I'll say this. I wasn't looking for him, but I didn't see him. I didn't see Jordan Elliott, though, either. Was Jordan Elliott there?
I didn't see him. I saw Malik Collins standing and watching because I was looking for him, but Jordan Elliott, I forgot to look for. But yeah. Good point.
I didn't notice him either. I did.
What did you see from Yetur Gross-Matos?
He looks like something, that's for sure. He's 6'6", 270. He looks like a guy who, he always was he was a late bloomer with tons of physical potential, and it's a technique-rich position. So I think there's lots of good reason to believe that he's an improving player.
I think he's going to start.
I kind of like the way they played their free agent hand a little bit, Grant, from the standpoint of I felt like they got that guy off of his best year. I felt like they got Yadam off of his best year. That sometimes, the light goes on and players do improve.
Also, Leonard Floyd for what they got him for is terrific. You don't need to be spending a ton of money on edge rushers to get good production. I think the Ravens proved that last year with Clowney. If you have a good scheme and a good overall defense, you can get a hell of a season out of an edge rusher who's in his 30s, who's not that desirable around the league. So I thought Floyd was perfect. I bet you Gross Mato is going to start, though. The Niners need to actually take run defense seriously. And I think having Floyd play 50% of the snaps and only play on passing downs and being a 2-point stance would help him too.
No question. Gross Matos, playing the run on first and second down, Floyd on passing downs and key third downs.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the plan. But back to the Commanders for just a sec. I mean, I know Niner fans love Aiyuk, and I know the consensus is going to be if Aiyuk's not back, it's like they screwed it up. But I could make an argument that look at I was watching the Super Bowl again the other night. You know who played really well in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl? Conley.
Yeah.
He made an incredible play on coverage. He also made a big catch. He made a couple catches in the playoffs leading into the Super Bowl. He's not old. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. In their current alignment, he's cut. And so's Danny Gray, and so's Ronnie Bell, and so's Tame Martin, and so's all those guys. They're all cut. So I just kind of wonder, it's like, if the Niners want to win the Super Bowl, is their best deal to pay Aiyuk big bucks and cut all these receivers that are NFL worthy? Or is it to trade Aiyuk for Jonathan Allen and McCaffrey's brother, or trade him for Jonathan Allen and Jahan Dotson, or trade him for Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen? I mean, whatever. Trade him for a defensive lineman and something else and maybe bolster your team there. Because I got some questions about that D-line.
I think what's rough about the Aiyuk situation is like you're seeing a lot of teams now at wide receiver extend their first-round pick after 3 years. Like the Eagles just did it with Devontae Smith, and the Dolphins just did it with Jalen Waddle. But the Niners don't do business that way, and I don't really know why. They could have extended Brandon Aiyuk last year, and if they had, they probably could have gotten him for $24 million a year, 25. Now they're offering 26, and it's like a slap in the face. Like they could have gotten out in front of this, and they only have themselves to blame. But at a certain point, you can't just give a player whatever he wants. And I think it's like 26 million is probably right around what he's worth to them. Maybe he's worth more to Washington, but I think at this point they're probably handling it correctly. And if they were to just give him a contract extension worth $30 million, I think they would inevitably regret it.
If I say to you, Ricky Pearsall receptions, what do you say back?
I mean, if Aiyuk isn't on the team,
give me an over-under. Well, I mean, no, just with Aiyuk on the team, let's just start there. What do you think Ricky's going to have reception-wise if Aiyuk's on the team? And I bring this up because I was looking at the stats from last year, and the Niners' number one receiver was Aiyuk, and their number two wide receiver was Debo. Their number three wide receiver was Juwan. Their number four wide receiver was McLeod. That should be Pearsall. McLeod was targeted 15 times and caught McLeod was targeted 15 times and caught 12 balls. So he had 12 receptions. Is Pearsall going to catch more than 12 balls?
I would think more than 12, but what's weird is the number three receiver caught 19.
Right.
Juwan. So because he's not the number three receiver, he's like fifth in the pecking order, but then so is Juszczyk because he gets paid. So Pearsall is going to have to split targets with Jennings and Juszczyk. So barring injury, he'll probably get 15 to 20 catches. But Debo misses time every season, going back to college. So the fact that Pearsall is a first-round pick, he's probably going to start at least a couple of games this year. So realistically, I don't know. Like, is he going to end up? Who's going to have more catches this season, Pearsall or Jennings?
I mean, Jennings was only targeted 33 times last year.
Yep,
and had,
but he's just got
catches.
Extended. He's a veteran.
I know. I mean, he's got great hands, and he's he's really
Juszczyk or Pearsall. Who's going to get targeted more?
I mean, Juszczyk was only targeted 17 times. So that's what I'm saying. If the 49ers used a first-round draft choice on a receiver that they're going to target 15 times all year, that's not a good use of the first-round pick.
I mean, when they drafted him, it seemed like Debo or Aiyuk was going out the door. And if Aiyuk requested a meeting today, it doesn't sound – if the Niners had asked, hey, Brandon, we want you to come to Santa Clara, that makes you think, oh, here comes the extension today or tomorrow. But when Aiyuk requests the extension, it kind of sounds like he's saying, I'm not requesting a trade publicly yet, but I would like you to trade me to Washington or whatever team. He could say, I want to go to Washington for these reasons, and this is what they'd offer me. And can you make this happen? Like you gave me permission to request a trade. I found a trade. Let's do it. And maybe the Niners say, no, we don't want to trade with Adam Peters, and that doesn't make us look good. And I'm sorry, we can't make this happen for you. But it sounds like Aiyuk's trying to get the Niners to change their mind about something today.
If you could handpick your spot, I mean, I'll give you a couple examples. There's a lot of Pittsburgh rumors. Man, the people in Pittsburgh really think they're getting Debo or Aiyuk. Kyle Madsen put out a trade the other day that I loved. It was Aiyuk to the Patriots for Christian Gonzalez in their first round pick. And I'm like, there's no chance Elliott Wolf is trading the first round pick, but I might even do that for Christian Gonzalez in their second round pick. I've seen Washington rumors. I've seen Chargers rumors with Ladd McConkey in a first. I've seen Green Bay rumors with a couple of receivers out of Reed and Watson and Dobbs. But I don't know if I want to send. I mean, to me, the New England thing is very attractive if you could get either their first or their second, because you're talking about a pick in the top 35 most likely, and a corner that might be your best corner, like as soon as he shows up. So, and he's young and he's good. So I don't know. I mean,
I wouldn't trade him for a pick because they need to win the Super Bowl this year. I like the idea of trading him to Washington for McLaurin and a pick to even it out. But McLaurin, I mean, puts up very similar numbers to Aiyuk. He's just a little bit older. And I think the problem with Aiyuk is it seems like he's never going to be happy on the Niners. He's never going to, even if you give him the money he wants, then you have to give him the targets he wants. And those don't exist in this offense for him. But with McLaurin, he's in the Niners price range. He has the same skill set as Aiyuk, and he won't be a malcontent. He'll be cool with his role in the offense, which is all you need. And he can win the one-on-one matchups that he'll get. So I think that's a great way to avoid paying more than you need at the position and not take a step back as a team.
It makes you wonder this meeting today if we're 24 hours away from by the way, Aiyuk demanded a trade.
Right.
But it doesn't come out locally. It doesn't come out until somehow Schefter reports it 72 hours from now.
Maybe what Brandon's doing, instead of like telling it to Jeremy Fowler so that the Niners have to hear it secondhand, he's saying, I'm giving you guys the courtesy of telling you face to face. How about that? Would that make sense?
Well, I mean, especially if there's a relationship there built on trust, and it sounds like Aiyuk. I mean, it doesn't sound like this is really personal. It sounds like this is business. Like Aiyuk's looking at his career
was the
going,
one thing that said he's taking the offers personal.
Right. Well, so that's what I'm saying. He's now like, I don't think it's personal. I think it's the Niners are staring at a $60 million quarterback next year, and that's going from 900,000 to 60 million. AAV is going to put a crimp in their cap. So I just think that they're playing hardball with Aiyuk because they got that looming.
I get the feeling that Aiyuk has felt slighted by Kyle and the Niners for years, since he was getting reps and touches taken away from him by Trent Sherfield and Mohamed Sanu, to him getting frozen out of playoff games, to now. I think Aiyuk feels that there's something personal against him from Kyle. Maybe. I mean, that's what the report is, that he takes it personal, and Kyle's in charge of the organization, and Brandon doesn't have that buddy-buddy relationship with Kyle that Debo does. So I'm just not surprised that this is happening, and I don't feel like Kyle's going to change Kyle's dug in. You're worth 26.
Interesting thing too is that the Niners have an interesting coaching dynamic with a couple of their coaches. One is Bobby T, who seems like he is absolutely the man in the running back room, right? I don't care if you're the better running back. If Bobby T doesn't like you, you're not playing. I mean, it's his way or the highway. And I get the feeling that he's really, really hard on his backs, and he's really, really challenges them. And he's a great coach. I think Shanahan's a pretty good coach, but I think he's really, really hard on the wide receivers, because he was a wide receiver, and I just don't think I don't know. I think that's my guess, is that he's hard on these wide receivers. He appreciates them, but I think he definitely can see their failings.
Well, I think from Aiyuk's perspective, Kyle's a lot harder on Aiyuk than Debo. And why? Like, Aiyuk was in the doghouse and we never really explained why. And it was sort of like suggested that maybe he wasn't practicing hard enough or playing hard enough without the ball. Like, what about Debo? Debo doesn't block, but he gets 11 targets in the Super Bowl and he can't even beat man coverage and he doesn't give much effort without the ball. It seems like there's a double standard. And I think maybe that's why Brandon Aiyuk is taking this personal. Like, I did everything right. I was in shape. I blocked. And I don't get rewarded. Why? Because I didn't become your friend? I don't know. Maybe there's this poor communication between Aiyuk and the 49ers, but it seems like he's extremely frustrated. And I do think he's taking it personal. He's been acting like he's taking it personal all offseason.
He has. And I wonder if there's any resentment built up from the standpoint that Purdy kind of took the high road and just stayed out of it, where he's got he's got Jaden Daniels there now.
Good
kind
point.
Of maybe feels like Jaden Daniels has his back, where Purdy was like almost talking about Aiyuk in past tense at times this year, and was like the way he talked about him, it was like, he's done a lot for me. It was almost like he was planning he may never see him again. I don't know what kind of relationship they have on the field. They have a very, very nice dynamic going. I don't know if they're close buddies or what, but makes me wonder.
Well, I mean, Purdy easily could have said, I need Aiyuk here long term. That's my guy. End of story. That's my guy. He didn't do it.
Well, short of that.
Yeah, he could have said, look, I mean, it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't imagine that the front office wouldn't bring him back. I mean, I know it's business, but this is the guy, and he's my guy, and we have a great relationship. And he could have used his power and influence as the 49ers franchise quarterback to help a teammate get some more money, but he didn't do that.
Not only did he not do that, Grant, I mean, I'm a big Purdy fan, but he actually went the other way. He actually he's like, remember what he said? He's like, I just trust that Kyle and John will get the right players in here that we need to, so it was like
if it ain't Brandon, it'll be someone else. And I will handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it wasn't like, hey, I need my guy. It's the end of the world. It's like, hey, you know what? I believe my guy is Lynch and Shanahan, and they'll come up with something. So,
during the season, you were in the locker room, you would hear after good games from Aiyuk, some of his teammates walking around being like, pay that man, Kittle, Trent, 25 million, 26 million. I never heard anyone say 30. And so if that's what is going on, if the Niners are offering what a lot of the people on the team think that he should be making, and he's holding out for $5 million a year more, he may not have the support of his peers that he thinks or that we think. It's one thing for him to be one of the highest paid players in the team. It's another thing for him to be the second highest paid player on the team when he's clearly not the second best player on the team.
If both sides continue to play super hardball, do you know what the date is that Aiyuk has to report by so that he accrues a full year? Is it like week 4, week 6, week 10, week 8? You have any idea?
I don't know for certain. I think he can miss half the season. I think he can miss roughly half the season.
Yeah. So if you're the 49ers and you think that's the plan, then maybe a trade's more attractive. I mean, take
Is that what
Aiyuk
Brandon's going to explain today? Like, look, you could trade me, or this is what I'm going to do. I want to be up front.
Right. I don't want to screw up the entire season and have every guy in the room hate me and me be a distraction. But this is my one opportunity to go for the max. I'm going for the max. And if it's here, great. And if it's elsewhere, great. But I'm going for the max, and I got to do it. I'm going to be a warrior in these negotiations for my family. And if you guys aren't going to bend, you might as well move me now. I mean, here's the question I would have for you. Do you think it's the smarter move to sign him? And let's just say the compromise is, I mean, it's not that hard to understand here, right? You got Jefferson at 35. You got Silver saying they're at 26. You got a guy at 28 that he says he probably wants to be near. There's also guys at 32. Let's just say he wants 30. Nice round numbers. He says, I want 30 million a year, or I'm not coming in and I'm just going to wait till the very end and I'll come in just to accrue the year. And, that's what, if you're going to play hardball and I'm not getting my 30, that's the way I'm playing my hand of cards. In that situation, if that's what's going on, Do you sign him for the $30 million, or is it the smarter move to trade him?
I would have traded him before the draft. And if they could trade him for Terry McLaurin, I'd do it now. But there are some creative things. Like if he wants the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, I feel like the Niners could feel good about offering it to him. I mean, look at the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal. It's technically $30 million. It's technically 4 years, $120 million. But the extension starts next year. And then by 2026, there's zero guaranteed money left on the deal. Zero. So yeah, it's a 4-year extension, but really they can get out of it after one of the years if it turns out that he's not worth the big money. So that seems Aiyuk would agree to that. If so, then I mean that seems pretty team friendly.
Yeah, it does.
Right? It's not that great of a deal for Amon-Ra St. Brown. It doesn't have a ton of guaranteed money, and there's zero left after 2025.
The other angle on this offseason that, as it goes on, it appears to be the case is it appears that Purdy's having a nice offseason and he seems to either be winning over his teammates to some degree. Kittle, the latest, JLC, Jennifer Lee-Chan in Nashville, reporting that Kittle very complimentary of Purdy and his development. Now he's taking kind of a different lead this year. What do you think? I mean, is Purdy, because of this full off season and the improvement that he's going to probably have in this off season, is his improvement enough because the quarterback position means so much to kind of vault them over the top and get them that ring?
I mean, I don't mean to be negative here, but like, I don't think Purdy was the reason they didn't win the Super Bowl. I don't think that like we were watching some remedial quarterback who has so much room to grow. I think he's already one of the more advanced quarterbacks in the league, and he played really well in the Super Bowl, and he wasn't the reason they lost. Could he have been better? Yeah, like he could have been Hall of Fame caliber, but he was excellent in the Super Bowl. He didn't turn the ball over. He was really good. A lot of his players didn't play that well around him. And I don't think his coach coached that well. So to me, I think with this team, with the Kyle Shanahan era, if they ever break through, if they ever actually get over the hump, it's going to be because of some growth that Kyle has, not Brock. I would expect Brock to keep improving. I don't know that Kyle's going to keep improving. I think Kyle's pretty locked into his level right now. And we can debate how good that is, but it hasn't been good enough yet. So I think that's where the change is going to come. It's going to come from Kyle. I think Brock's a hell of a quarterback. I think Brock's better at his job than Kyle is at his.
How do you anticipate Kyle changing?
Okay. He has lost Super Bowls because he hasn't handled situational football well in the second half with leads. He just hasn't had a good plan for those situations. I mean, it's been famous. Like he's gotten away from the run game, even back when he was with Atlanta. So he needs to be as good in the third quarter and the fourth quarter as he is with those opening scripts. He needs to script those situations because it seems almost like he chokes a little bit. Like what he's known for is those great motions and shifts and the run game and play action. And in the second half of the Super Bowl, it was like static formation, 5 wide, no shifts, it was, I don't know. He seems like he gets away from him. What works, what his identity and philosophy in the most high leverage times in the Super Bowl. And that's not even talking about the rules of overtime, which he may or may not have known. Like that's where he needs to come. He needs to be not severely outcoached by Andy Reid in the biggest game of the year.
To me, it's about risk reward. I mean, he'll take big risks at times. He did in the Super Bowl. He went for it on 4th down. But then I kind of think the old school thinking is he's still tied into the old school thinking where I think the Niners are listening more to their analytics people than ever before every year that goes by. But I think that they may want to listen to their analytics people a little bit more in game and decision making in game. Because give you an example, I mean, 3rd and 4 in old school thinking is a passing down, and then you get to 4th down, and if it's 4th and 4, you punt or you kick the field goal or whatever it is. The new school thinking or the analytic crowd now is that's a rundown 3rd and 4, and then with the idea that you're not going to give away possession, that you're going to run on fourth down. And I just think that if he had thought that way in those key 3rd and 4s, I think he would have handled them differently. I think watching the Eagles play Kansas City, I think the Eagles would have run and maybe converted the first down, never gave the ball back to Mahomes. And
it's not just that he passed on 3rd and 4. It's like, what was the play call? It was empty backfield, play action with Christian McCaffrey in jet sweep motion. Like, wait, you waited until the final play of the season to call that for the first time? How about something that you're really good at, that you've run a lot, that you could dress up and make look a little different, but it's essentially a concept you've run a million times? Like, play action with no one in the backfield on 3rd down sounds like a recipe for disaster. I don't know. But look, real quick, with Kyle, it's like he's tough to evaluate because he wears all the hats in this organization. He's the GM, he's the head coach, he's the play caller, he's the offensive designer. And he's a great offensive designer. And he gets a lot of credit for being a GM. This roster is the best roster in the league. But as a head coach, when you have this roster and it's been considered the best in the league for years and you can't win the Super Bowl, like, eventually that's on you. And it's hard to say you're a great coach when you have the best team and you can't win a Super Bowl. Like, and it's been that way for years. So maybe this is the year he gets it done, but like, you got to get it done eventually, man. You're not like coaching the freaking bad news Bears. This is the best team.
You do have to get it done. And you know, this last go around, not knowing the rules or looking like your team doesn't know the rules in overtime is a bad look. It's just a bad look.
He got out coached by Spagnuolo too. Like, Spagnuolo had his number all night.
Yeah, I mean, Spagnuolo dialed up a lot of free runs at Brock Purdy. And the bottom line is, it was the Niner offensive line great? No, but I think it's better than it looked in that Chiefs game. But, you know, also the bottom line on this thing is that if you told me going into that game that Trent Williams would be called for more penalties than the Chief offensive tackles combined,
crazy,
I would have said no way. But
because they committed like 50 holding penalties during the season, right? Those two guys, Jawan Taylor and what's the other guy's name? Yeah, they're awful. Donovan Smith. Yeah, they're terrible. Smith. Yeah, they got away with that.
What is the biggest issue for the Niners right now? Would you say, I mean, do you believe it's Shanahan? Do you believe it's the run D? Do you believe it's the offensive line? The more I watched them in minicamp, the more I thought, you know what? They've got some good young offensive linemen. I kind of like some of the new D linemen that they got. You know, I kind of like what I saw from Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa. I guess I'm not as worried about the secondary because of that. But I thought the quarterbacks outside of Purdy looked atrocious. And I just don't see them winning.
That's a good call.
Any games without Brock Purdy starting and finishing. I don't think Dobbs or Allen or Mordecai, I don't think these guys can win games.
Right. Yeah, like if the question is what is the Niners' biggest weakness, it would be their offensive line or their run defense. But it's like if the question is if they don't win the Super Bowl, what's going to ultimately be the reason? I think it would be the coach not being able to be a closer, or the offensive line, or Kyle, or a combination getting Brock hurt. Because for what like you just said, they're in trouble if he goes down. I'm not sure how many games they're going to win with Brandon Allen or Tanner Mordecai or Joshua Dobbs out there. We saw him in OTAs. Like, it didn't look good.
No, I mean, Dobbs looked good against the Niners early in the year at Levi's. He looked good the week prior to that against Dallas. He looked really good. As the year progressed, he looked terrible. And by the end of the year against the Bears, that was one of the worst quarterbacking performances I've ever seen. Yeah. So, and then I thought, well, okay, what's he going to look like? Well, when you first see him, you're like, hey, guy's athletic, he's springy, he's tall,
decisive, gets the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, he looks good. He's athletic, he's smart. He's smart. And you're like, this, maybe there's something there. But then you watch him a little bit more, and the ball's not accurate. Doesn't come out on time. He's not good enough.
Not accurate.
He's not. Sam Darnold is quite a bit better than Josh Dobbs.
You got to throw that dig route over the middle on the Niners, and it's got to be like the right height, and it's got to lead the guy. Otherwise, it's an interception. And he was throwing it high and behind. It's like, this isn't going to work. Maybe it's early, but if you can't throw that route, you're not going to play on this team.
Yeah. The other thing, watching the minicamp that made me think is, what do you think this Niner offense would look like without Aiyuk? Would would Ronnie Bell, Tay Martin, would one of those guys get more run? Would it be
Pearsall?
Is it Pearsall stepping right in for Aiyuk?
Yeah, it would have to be Pearsall. Ronnie Bell isn't good enough. It'd be a guy who would get a lot of one-on-one matchups because there's so much attention on McCaffrey and everyone else. But you got to win the one-on-one matchups, and that's what Aiyuk does. Whether you're pressed, off, whatever, whoever the corner is, Aiyuk can win. Short, intermediate, long, he can win. That's what they drafted Pearsall to do. I don't know if he can beat the press. I don't know what he can do, but he would be the best option. I mean, better be him.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, they have a lot of weapons and they have a lot of choices. I mean, like what's Garendo's role? Is Schrader going to make this team? I mean, they've got lots of questions and lots of different choices at their skill positions. But if you don't have Aiyuk, I think this whole thing looks quite a bit different. Okay, couple last ones here.
Mhm.
One, there was a top 10 49er list last night, and it was. They had Frank Gore number 10. They had Charles Haley in the back 10 there. Anyway, the got down to the final two, and it was Joe and Jerry. Who would you make one and who would you make two as far as a list of the greatest 49ers that ever played? Who's one, who's two?
I think you have to go with Joe as number one. No disrespect to Jerry. Joe has 4 championships as a quarterback, never lost a Super Bowl. Think not only is he the number one Niner guy, but he's like one of the most iconic athletes in NFL history and Bay Area history. I think he's kind of on a different level. He's on like the Willie Mays level.
Right.
It's got to be Joe. Willie Mays, Joe, and Steph are like the 3 Bay Area athletes above the rest. And I think Jerry would be. I mean, Jerry Barry Bonds would be like sort of next in the running after those 3, but not quite on their level.
So here's the list. It's Frank Gore 10, Charles Haley 9, Dwight Clark 8, Roger Craig 7, Patrick Willis 6, Steve Young 5. The $1 million backfield, they put them all together. Joe the Jet Perry, Hugh McElhaney, John Henry Johnson, Y.A. Tittle. They listed them collectively at 4. Ronnie Lott at 3, Jerry at 2, Joe at 1. No John Taylor, no Terrell Owens, no Bryant Young, no Deion Sanders. A little surprised no T.O. He's one, but he did play a lot of years elsewhere.
Yeah, he did play a lot of years elsewhere, and it's an interesting one. But yeah,
he probably belongs
like
in the top 10 over Dwight, right?
What's that?
Terrell probably belongs in the top 10 over Dwight, but
That's
Dwight's
true.
Dwight.
Dwight's Dwight. Yeah, Dwight won championships.
Dwight was the original.
T.O.
right?
never did.
Yeah, Dwight. I mean, the love affair is the Niner.
It's hard to be top 10 on the Niners without a championship ring, which is incredible that Patrick Willis pulled it off.
Yeah. Who's going to the Hall of Fame, by the way?
He deserves it.
Yeah, he does deserve it. What an amazing player. And I always think about Patrick Willis was such a great player. You think about how great he was, but more than anything, I also think about how great he could have been if he was able to keep playing. I mean, the guy had a very short career. I'm happy that he's making the Hall, but I thought he might have to wait, and he's getting in much earlier than I thought.
For people that don't remember Patrick Willis, just think of Dre Greenlaw, but bigger, faster, stronger.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
More violent.
The green dot. Is Bowman and Willis the greatest inside linebacker duo of all time?
Maybe. I mean, Dre Greenlaw just doesn't get the recognition. Those guys were both all pros. So, yeah, I would have to say so. They were just incredible. The two of them could go sideline to sideline. I mean, remember when they played Michael Vick back in 2011? I mean, Vick couldn't go anywhere on those guys. It was just, he was completely caged in. Those guys were fast. So fast.
I put out a poll question the other day asking Niner fans, who is the better? If you owned a team, you own the team and you can have either guy coach your team, are you going Shanahan or Harbaugh? And I believe Shanahan beat Harbaugh, but it was pretty close. Let me see if I can. Oh, here it is. Maybe it wasn't close. It's 82.4%. Oh no, no, it's different. Different poll question. That was my Paul George poll question.
It's an interesting question. I will go with Harbaugh.
Here it is.
I feel like
20. It was 71.2% Shanahan, 28.8% Harbaugh. If you owned an NFL team, who would you hire to be your head coach between Shanahan and Harbaugh?
Harbaugh. I would. I mean, I think with Harbaugh, he lost his Super Bowl with the Niners too, but he fell behind early, tried to come back. If he had leads early, I think he's the kind of guy who would know how to close it out. He would commit to his run game. His run game's built to win a
They're
game.
so interesting, aren't they? Because it's
Yeah.
like Shanahan is like if you said offensive gurus, I don't think Harbaugh's an offensive guru. He's a Bo
he's not.
Schembechler, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
He's a throwback.
But what he is, I think Harbaugh is a better game manager.
Yeah.
Clearly than Shanahan. But I think Shanahan's a better play caller, play designer, play schemer, play sequencer. Shanahan's the better. Like if there's genius offensively, it's Shanahan's more of a genius than Harbaugh.
He's a better play designer. I don't even know if Harbaugh designs plays.
Yeah, Harbaugh though is maybe the best at putting together a coaching staff.
Yeah.
Seems like he gets really, really good coaches.
Yeah.
And then I think Shanahan probably wears better over time. Because I don't think he's quite. I think he's probably an easier guy to be around. But I think they're both pretty high ego guys.
Yeah, I think there's a energy level that Harbaugh has that Kyle can't match. And maybe people say it doesn't matter, but Kyle always had Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans or Dan Quinn before him to sort of be the yin to his yang. And last year, I feel like having someone like Steve Wilkes wasn't good. It's two of the same type of personality type. So I'm curious to see what Kyle does. He's been here so long, year 8. A lot of times, coaches can sort of get tuned out by their own players. This long, Bill Walsh said coaches shouldn't coach one place for more than 10 years. He's really at a make or break time. He could win the next 2 Super Bowls, go back to back, and be a freaking legend. This is such an interesting time in his career in the 49ers franchise history.
If Kyle continues to fall short of the Super Bowl, how many years does he get before Jed yanks his chain?
That's a good question, man. Maybe Jed never
Andy
will.
Andy Reid was in Philly for 13 years before they finally said hit the road.
Okay, well let's say this happens. They get close the next couple of years, but don't get it done. Then they give Purdy a huge extension. Then a lot of players have to leave and they get old and they have to sort of rebuild and they take a step back. And then you're in year 11, 12, of Kyle. And let's say he doesn't rebuild so well. Maybe they're still last in the league in pass attempts and they're 9-8. And Brock and the organization feels they're not getting the most out of their quarterback that they're spending so much on. Maybe this time they side with the quarterback over Kyle. That's good because in the past, when Kyle had an issue with Jimmy, the whole organization sided with Kyle and decided that Jimmy was overrated and they replaced him. But maybe they won't do that this time if it's Kyle versus Brock.
I think he gets longer than because it's not Philly. You know, in Philly, you got an angry media that's gonna drub you out.
I don't think they fired him either. I think they just let his contract expire.
I bet you he's got this is year 8. You said they're going on to year 8.
Yeah.
I think we're at the halfway point. I think he gets 15 years.
Man,
I know that's not what people want to hear, but I think he gets 15 years. You know who's a big fan?
How many coaches get 15 years without winning a Super Bowl? Like Bill Cowher. I think Bill Cowher was one. They stuck with him forever in Pittsburgh, and he finally won one at the end. But not many.
Not many.
Not many.
And there's
doesn't happen very much.
No, it really doesn't. And why is that? Why do you think that is? I mean, it's just like people are. It's really, especially in major markets, it doesn't happen because I think people get impatient.
Pressure to win the Super Bowl, and once 5, 6, 7, 8 years goes by and you don't win it, I think there's a perception that you're not going to do it. But Kyle's different. Of all the head coaches that haven't won a Super Bowl, everyone feels strongest about him. He's gonna do it. Like, oh, we'll see. But
one guy who's a big fan. One guy's a big fan of his is Brent Jones. and I had
Yeah, I
Brent
saw it.
on, and I'm going to play this. This is what Brent had to say.
I love Brent Jones, by the way.
Here's Brent. When you see Kyle, though, now, and he's, the Super Bowl so elusive for him, there's this kind of growing number of Niner fans who just feel like he's like fair game to just tee off on. When I say Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, do you see the comparisons, and how do you feel about, Kyle as he still has that one hurdle to climb?
First of all, with Mike created a great amount of confidence in the offense. The offense was so confident in his approach to game planning, play calling, everything. Kyle, I believe, is 100% the same way. I think Kyle is so innovative. I think what he's done with formation and motion crushes everybody out there. I will fight. I will physically fight if somebody comes up and gets in my face about Kyle, because that tells me they don't know football. And to just rant and rave because you haven't won a Super Bowl. You know how many great coaches haven't won a Super Bowl? There's a lot.
There you go.
Don't beat me up, Brent. You gave me an autograph when I was 7 years old. I'm a big fan. I still have it.
Do you think he's speaking directly to you there?
Yeah, don't beat me up, man. Okay, can I retort a little bit? Look,
no, you cannot. This is a live stream.
He compared him to Mike Shanahan.
Yes.
He compared him to Mike Shanahan. Look, Mike Shanahan went to a lot of Super Bowls too. All right, and Mike Shanahan. Let's go back to the years. Original one, 1994. He goes with the 49ers. They put up 49 points and win. That's Mike.
26-point favorites, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. But they still, they came through. They did what they were supposed to do. 97, they play the Packers, put up 31. 98, they play the Falcons, put up 34. And Kyle's trips to the Super Bowl, he scored like 21, 23, 22. That's what he scored. So he's not his dad yet. And I understand that Brent has a ton of respect for his dad. He played for his dad. But Kyle ain't his dad just yet, although he's very good.
I mean, Kyle's a very good coach. There's no question. I would say he's top 10 for sure in the NFL. But you know what? It's a thing until it's not a thing. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's very bottom line oriented in football until it gets time to critique. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, there was this and there was that and there was also this, and don't forget that. It's like, what happened to the bottom line oriented? I think coaches deserve to be graded with kind of a bottom line deal because they themselves are bottom line with their players. So,
right.
Kyle, and I think Kyle Shanahan, if he was sitting right here, he could respect the fact that until you've done it, you haven't done it. And, I mean, it's as simple as that. And this year, I think, was the worst of them from the standpoint of you had players who made it sound like you hadn't discussed the overtime rules and didn't know the nuance. And the Chiefs felt like you handed them a break. And whether it actually wound up that way, I mean, they won the game. But that was not a good look.
2-point favorites.
That was not a good look.
Niners were 2-point favorites in that game. And it's like they lost in 2019. And afterward, everyone could kind of be like, well, I mean, the fact that they were that close with Jimmy Garoppolo was kind of amazing. And Jimmy melted down and there were guys open. Emmanuel Sanders was open, yada, yada, yada. Jimmy's not that good. And that was all true. You can't do that this time. Brock's good. Brock played well. Brock didn't turn the ball over. He didn't choke. So there's no clear scapegoat now. And to Brent's point, yeah, a lot of great coaches haven't won Super Bowls. But what was the excuse this year? You were favored. Your quarterback is good. You can't blame him. I mean, at a certain point, if you're a great coach, you probably should win one Super Bowl with the best roster. You probably should.
You can only be ahead of schedule for so long. Then you're on schedule. Then you're behind schedule.
Yep.
And when they went to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 54, they were undoubtedly ahead of schedule. And this year, I think they were on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from this point on, they're behind schedule and kind of chasing it from behind. That's how
right.
I'd view it. I don't know.
I completely agree.
That's
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's why there is some pressure and urgency on Kyle, despite all of his success the last 5 years.
If Joe Montana had lost Super Bowl 16 when he banked that
Bill
one,
Walsh
they were ahead of schedule.
Where would Bill Walsh be 8 years into his tenure if he had lost his first 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah. And if you look at the NFC title game from 81, the Niners turned it over 5 times.
Yeah, they did.
Game. They didn't play well in that game. That was this huge game against Dallas. They didn't particularly play well. So you know what? There's some luck involved.
They almost lost after the catch. They had to force a fumble at midfield. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, was it Drew Pearson or Tony Hill? I forget who it was, but somebody was gone, and it was an illegal tackle now, but it was a legal tackle then, and that was Eric Wright with the horse collar just pulled back. I think it was Drew Pearson. Otherwise, he was gone. And then Stuckey and Pillars sacked the quarterback, Danny White, and I think was it Stuckey popped it out and Pillars fell on it. I think something like that.
That was that.
And I interviewed Lawrence Pillars a couple of years ago. He was honorary captain and great guy. And that it's funny, that story. I mean, they remember that. I mean, that's a lifetime. I mean, that sack fumble recovery sent the 49ers to the Super Bowl over the Dallas freaking Cowboys, who were monster. And they were incredible in the 70s.
Let's come back to Kyle real quick. I think why I like covering him, and he's been my favorite person I think I've ever covered. It's been 8 years now. Kind of defines my career. He's complicated. He's like a Greek tragic figure. Like he's good and he can get close to the top, but the reason he hasn't won yet is him. And so he's his own worst enemy, right? Like the only person who can stop Kyle is Kyle. And it makes him almost like a Greek tragic figure. So hopefully he can break the cycle and end up with a happy ending. Because right now it's a tragic story. The way he loses is kind of tragic.
Well, I mean, I think more than anything, and there's always a learning lesson, a new learning lesson. That's what's so tough. The Philly game, it's like we're all there. We've been watching this team all year. We can see exactly what he was thinking. He was thinking, it's too early in the game to waste my challenge here. But that's when that was the opportunity that presented itself, and you have to adapt. And that was his thinking. And he let go of a major opportunity that would have been overturned. That was a major play in the game. And who knows where it goes from there? I mean, of course the quarterback got hurt, and
these little moments determine whether you're a hero or a loser. I mean, these little moments determine history, and he just hasn't seized his moment yet, despite all of his talent and all of the good things he's done, which are plentiful.
Yeah. And it's just, there's more. It's tough to make these decisions with pressure. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, we both would agree, is an outstanding coach. Jim Harbaugh absolutely gagged in the end of Super Bowl 47.
He did.
They're running Frank Gore.
And Pete Carroll did.
In the end, long run. What's that?
Pete Carroll blew it against the Patriots epically.
He absolutely did.
Dan Campbell blew it against the Niners last year.
No question.
Happens. So, it does happen. The only problem with Kyle is it's happened multiple times. And now there's two ways to look at it. There's he's in the Super Bowl a lot. He's in the NFC Championship game every year. He's only 45, like not even 45 yet. He's like roughly 44. Like he's going to get there eventually.
You can't say he's got to go, because then it's like, well, wait a second, who's coming in? There's far more mistakes. I mean, if you could get Jim Harbaugh to come in, then now you got a good coach. But they haven't demonstrated that they can consistently pick a good coach. So then it's like, well, look where you were. So there's always that.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if you have Brock Purdy and he's great, he's a legit franchise quarterback, then, coaches will line up to play for you. Just like the Chargers, there's nothing inherently, they didn't do anything different to get Jim Harbaugh. They just had Justin Herbert. So Harbaugh hired himself. He's like, I'd love to coach that guy. If Brock's that good, and you think he is, and he just might be, then all of a sudden Brock's hiring coaches in a few years if Kyle isn't getting it done.
I just can't think of who it would be. Like right now, if I said to you, fire Kyle and hire somebody else, it's like, it's easy to be like, you know what, I'm going to do
kind of the wrong time in
the offseason. You did a kitchen remodel. The part that you could do and I could do is bash out the counters. The part that you and I can't do is put new cabinets and new counters and new flooring and new lighting. So it's like firing Kyle is bashing out the counters. But what are you going to put in there? You know what I mean? Like who do you, if there was a name that I like, Sean McVay, that's why I put this up there. I said at the time that I would have hired Sean McVay. I'm a big McVay guy.
I can't hear you. I lost you. Am I the only person that can't hear? I can't hear Larry. Muted. You're muted. Larry's muted. I don't know why. We can't hear you, Larry. Larry's definitely muted. Am I muted? You can hear me? Okay. He'll figure it out. What was I thinking about? Oh, yeah, I was going to say Ben Johnson. So look, yeah, like who would replace Kyle? If I were to say someone like Ben Johnson or whoever you want to mention, the guy doesn't have to be a better offensive play designer than Kyle, because what's held the Niners back from winning the Super Bowl isn't necessarily play design. It's game management, situational play calling with leads in second halves of Super Bowls. So maybe Ben Johnson, you'd want to interview him. But honestly, like if the Niners had come to the conclusion years ago that Kyle wasn't good enough, not a closer, they could have traded him and promoted D'Amico. They could have traded him and promoted Saleh. Those are good, or Mike McDaniel. Like there's options. And the idea is like, yeah, Kyle's good, but he's indispensable. He's the only coach in the league who could not win a Super Bowl with the best roster in the league. If he's so good, if he's so irreplaceable, I'm thinking probably other coaches in the league could win a Super Bowl with this roster. Coaches who aren't as highly regarded as Kyle, aren't seen as geniuses, but they could just find a way to not blow a lead in the second half of the Super Bowl with this roster. I think that could happen. Is that so much? When you look at it that way, does he seem so irreplaceable? Yes, he helped build this roster that's so good. He absolutely gets credit for that. But if Doug Peterson hasn't had an original thought since 2017. If he were the coach of this team, could he take it across the finish line? I don't know. Maybe not. But he's won a Super Bowl. When he went to the Super Bowl, he won it. If Sean Payton were the coach of this team, would he get it across the finish line? I don't know. He hasn't won a Super Bowl since I was 19, 21. So maybe not. But there are some coaches who are just kind of who could probably get it done with this team. Kyle always makes the excuse like, well, you know, when I lose in the Super Bowl, I'm losing to Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Yeah, but I feel like the Niners did a pretty good job against Mahomes in each of the Super Bowls. I feel like they intercepted him twice in the first one. His quarterback rating was below 80, and they intercepted him once in the second one and held the offense to 22 points in regulation. Like Mahomes is great, but the Chiefs' offense wasn't great last year. They won with defense, and I think the person who got the biggest difference in the Super Bowl was Kyle versus Spagnuolo and Kyle versus Reed. Really, Kyle versus Spagnuolo was a big mismatch in that game. The run game was 3.5 yards per carry, and the pass game, 9 unblocked rushers. That's a big win for Spagnuolo across the board. It's hard to blame the player. Obviously, the fumble from McCaffrey, the fumble from McLeod, those were huge plays. But there was it's hard to say that Kyle didn't get thoroughly outcoached in that Super Bowl. Thoroughly outcoached. So, yeah, that's why it's tough for him. And I understand where Brent Jones is coming from, but I just try to think about a bizarro world where Bill Walsh lost to the Bengals in 82 and then lost to the Dolphins in 85. Like, wouldn't there be some pressure on him in 1987, 1988? I would think there would be. Again, I think the only coaches who didn't win a Super Bowl in the first 7 years that went on to win Super Bowls with their first team was John Madden and Bill Cowher. So I think Madden won it in year 8, and then Cowher won it in like year 16. So usually it's like if it doesn't happen by now, it's not going to happen. But it did happen for John Madden and Bill Cowher, so maybe Kyle's the next John Madden. In which case, look, if Kyle wins a Super Bowl this year, he should be on the cover of Madden next year. No. They should just change it from Madden to Shanahan. Call it Shanahan 26. Because, he's a genius. He's the face of football. He revolutionized it with the shifts and the motions. The way the guy goes in motion, he's over here, and then, oh my God, he's over there. Larry's not coming back, is he? This is his channel. This I have to sit here. I'm like being held hostage right now. I couldn't stop if I wanted to. I don't have the power. There he is. Hey, what's up, Larry? No, I can't hear you. That's frustrating. Maybe it's me this time. 30. I'm gonna go through. It's okay. You keep trying. I'm gonna go through the super chats. I can't call them onto the screen though. I'm like the junior partner of the show today. Usually we switch off who's in control. So G2 the Universe is a new member for Larry. Joseph Stockbridge for me says Grant is DJ Quick, Larry is Sugar Free, Coach is Drew Down, Ryan is Corrupt, Jesse is Master P, Purdy is Mac Dre. If Aiyuk gets paid, gonna say bye sooner than later. Maybe Woody because he acts accordingly. Man, Woody from East Coco, that's cool. I would love to be DJ Quick because he never fell off and he was probably the most complete artist. He could do everything. Larry is Sugar Free. Man, that's such a compliment. Coach is Drew Down. I want to be Drew Down too. He's from Oakland. Can I be Drew Down? Ryan's Corrupt. I can see that. I can see that because he wears Dickies. He seems like the kind of guy who would wear Dickies and Converse. Jesse is Master P. Why? Well, Master P's rich. Purdy's Mac Dre if Aiyuk gets paid. All day, every day, Kim says, wait a minute. Mr. Pig and a Pickle said Mordecai looked like a G. Who's Mr. Pig and a Pickle? Ricky Williams says, how long does Lynch stay? To the women's Super Bowl? Fish and Chip says, you're talking about a head coach who took a player off a ship. Logan Ryan? And then he gave up the game, the Super Bowl losing touchdown. At Don Burr, it's dang Lions tame. Anyway.
There we go.
There he is.
Wow. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
We had a power outage, and so the whole thing shut down for a minute.
Happens.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I apologize. Did you get through the
I did. I got through the supers. We're good. We're caught up.
Final thought here. There was talk right as I was coming on that the Warriors may have traded Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, and Moses Moody for Paul George. What do you think? I know you watch some Warrior hoop. Do you like that trade? Do you not like that trade?
I mean, Paul George is a hell of a player. He's been carrying that Clippers team the last few years because Kawhi's been hurt. I'm looking. He played 74 games last year at 33 years old and put up 22 points. I mean, he's a way better player than Andrew Wiggins, who fell off the freaking face of the universe after that great playoff run a couple years ago. So they just got a whole lot better. I don't know if they're going to win a championship, but they got a lot better.
Yeah.
Does that mean Clay's out?
I think it sounds like Clay's going to leave. They say Clay's going to leave, like 3-year deal for $70 million guaranteed. Maybe Orlando. I'm not sure.
Okay, and they're going to stick with Pods as a starting two guard.
I think maybe Pods is the two guard. Maybe they also have 3 free agents they're going to sign. They're probably going to get.
I don't like Pods as a starting two guard. I like him as like a backup point guard.
Yeah, I like him as a combo. He's like a better as a combo guard.
Yeah.
We hit everything we wanted to hit pretty much today. So
I think so.
You know, I guess I was going to ask you one last question on the way out the door. Are you surprised that, or do you think it was said for effect when Aiyuk said that the Niners contract offers are affecting him? Are you surprised that this is not a rookie. This is not a guy who doesn't know the business. He knows the business. He's a big boy. He's seen this with Debo and other guys. Are you surprised that he's seemingly bothered by these negotiations with the Niners?
I mean, part of me wants to say, like, yeah, man, like, what's the big deal? Like, this is business and he's being immature. But I think it affected Debo. I think it affected Kittle. And maybe Kittle wasn't as vocal about it, but I think the Niners really put you through the ringer and test your self-confidence and your self-esteem, because all of a sudden they've been building you up for 3 years and telling you how good you are. And then for months, they just tell you about how you're way worse than you think you are and you don't deserve what you think you do. I think that's tough on a 26-year-old young man who's only been told since he was 12 that he's God's gift. I think it's really hard. And like, plus, you know, why do you want to take your own players down a peg? Like, Aiyuk needs to have an ego for the 49ers. He needs to think he's the best wide receiver in the league. And now, for the first time, he has to question that. it must be really hard. I don't think it's good. Meanwhile, you got Washington or whoever being like, Brandon, you're just the greatest, man. Why don't you come over here?
I know. Seriously, you got Peters probably sitting there going, "Hey, we think you're worth 30 million. You know, we'd pay you in a heartbeat."
Yeah, man. They're messing with you, man. I don't like it either. It's wrong.
It's wrong. Come on over.
I wouldn't stand for it. Yeah.
But it does make you wonder what kind of relationship Aiyuk has with Jaden Daniels and what kind of relationship he has with Purdy. And if maybe, maybe Washington is really where he wants to be. Maybe this meeting is not to say, hey, guys, I really want this. This is like, hey, I want to be in Washington. Get me there. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Hey, my first choice is to sign with you, but you guys haven't made me a new offer in a couple of months, and Washington's hot and heavy. So let's talk.
Exactly. I'm going to go in the house and stop sweating. Grant, what do you got cooking the rest of the night? What do you got going on the channel?
I'm going to the driving range.
Are you going to be vacationing at all? Last year you were in the Hamptons. You got any elaborate?
Nah, man. I'm just golf. I'm just doing golf this summer. I'm addicted, and I want to play as much as possible before training camp starts in a month. So I'm going to the driving range now with my brother, and then tomorrow I'm playing at Claremont Country Club.
Do you guys play for money?
Who's
the better Cohn off the tee?
He's a Strauss. We have different fathers, but I just started playing. He used to shoot below 80, so I'm sure he's way better than me. But I'm gonna see. I've been practicing a lot. But tomorrow I'm playing at Claremont Country Club. You can't just play there. You have to be invited because it's a freaking country club, and it's like the nice one. It's a very nice one in Oakland. I'm excited. I don't even know what to expect. There's a dress code.
Is this tied to the Claremont Hotel?
No,
in Berkeley.
No,
because I stayed there on my wedding night on the Claremont Hotel in Berkeley on my wedding night. Stayed there. What a great spot. What an incredible
very
hotel.
Nice. Beautiful view of San Francisco and a great spot. But I'm excited.
No, not the same though.
You can't pull out your phone on the course.
You cannot
tase you.
I know.
There's all kind of rules. You can't change in the parking lot. You have to come you either have to use the clubhouse or be ready to go. You have to have your shirt tucked in. You have to have a collar. It's like
which move of golf etiquette are you most likely to break?
I'm still getting. I'm still learning the etiquette on the green.
Walking in people's lie? Are you?
I walked in people's lie on the green. I do it all the time, and I feel
in their backswing.
I move around too much when people are swinging. I step through people's lines on the green. I do a lot of faux pas, and it's. I can just say, "Hey, I'm new," but pretty soon I can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
There
you go.
I just started marking my ball on the green. I feel pretty advanced doing that, putting down a little quarter.
I think I told you the story about how I played 18 holes at Hagen Oaks in Sacramento with a buddy of mine, and we had a bunch of beers, and there was a lady who comes up after 9, and they're like, the guy at the starter, because we're back at the clubhouse, goes, "Hey, do you mind if we add a single on the back 9?" And I'm like, "No problem." And there's this woman, and she comes out. She's got the wraparound shades. She's like LPGA. She's got matching bag and wristbands and everything. She's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get on the tour." I'm like, "Oh, great." She continues to play just the worst 9 holes I've ever seen in my life. We get to the 18th hole. She hits her first shot OB. She hits her second shot OB. She then starts swearing, and she took her bag, slammed it into the ground, and then picked up every one of her clubs and hurled them into a tree.
Damn. And that's when she retired from
some
golf.
Fell, and we were like, "Hey, it was great to meet you." You know, what the hell's wrong with her?
Yeah, and that was the end. I feel like golf is really fun, but then you put too much pressure on yourself and you want to keep improving, and then you don't, and then you just give up. So I'm not.
My one rule of golf is this: if we play golf, we can talk about anything but our golf. Like we can't sit there. You can't sit there and be like, "Oh man, I'm really, I've got a power fade and it's killing me, and I hate my wedge." And I cannot hear about your golf on the golf course. That's my only rule. We can talk anything you want. You want to talk politics, religion, race, You want to get controversial. Anything
I'm
you want.
like the exact opposite. I
not
don't want to
talk
talk about
my
anything
golf.
but golf on the golf course. I don't want to talk about the Niners. I
You don't want
for
to talk about
sure
the
don't want to
Niners?
talk about
Oh,
politics.
but people want
I
to
want to do the whole
Niners
like
with you.
stupid like, oh, good speed. You know how there's all those little things like how golfers praise each other like, oh, good line. Good line. Hey, you had the right. I want to do all that stuff. And I want to pretend like I've been playing the sport since I was 7, even though I haven't.
Yeah. Hey, good speed.
You struck it well.
Good.
You struck it well. Oh, you
That
chunked it a little bit. Chunked it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the follow through there was fantastic.
Good balance.
It might be on the beach, but no.
Yeah.
Or
no, you can play that. That's playable. That's chip and a putt.
Oh, you're gonna find that. You'll
Oh,
find
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You hit the tar out of that. It just
Oh,
you're in the other fairway, but you hit the hell out of that.
Or when you talk to the ball, kick back. Oh, come on. Stay left. It's a ball. It can't hear you. And even if it could, it wouldn't want to do what you want it to do.
That does it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Check out the Cohn Zone. Check out the Krueger Show. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly